We are not doing that. We need that. China has got 50,000 screens, we've got hardly 8,000 screens. You know, we have to have both this. Opportunities from the government. I've spoken to the Highway Minister telling him that Kamal has a problem, which is right. That is the properties are so expensive. We are coming up with schemes telling the government that how you should allow a cinema hall to be opened in the vicinity or your locality where the FSI problem should not be there. You should be given free of FSI. Let them build theatres for the small people. Today the multiplexes cater only to the rich and affluent. There is a huge chunk. My drivers, my maid, my peon, my sport boys, who are completely lost out in the cinema hall because they can't afford the tickets. We should make that possible. If you want to increase the pie, how are you going to increase the pie?
There is one question, taking on from that conversation, Kamal, especially, you know, while we do our projections of revenue, is it still true that 60 to 70% of the revenue of box office comes from between Delhi and Bombay, between these two territories? My question is that is there a growth in B and C sectors? Is there a future that there should be growth there? What are the price points and what are you doing about it and what can we all do about it?
So Delhi UP you mean, and Bombay territory, which is not just Bombay city but the entire territory, Maharashtra, Gujarat and so on, is not 60 but close to about 50-51%. There is a growth in other markets. For sure, I mean clearly these the bigger cities are driving the box office revenue because, as Mr. Bhatt spoke about, the average ticket prices, you know, the propensity to be able to afford higher ticket prices is much more in cities. So as a result, the box office growth, which is a function of admission growth and the ticket price growth, is much more in the cities. But at the same time, there is an enormous amount of development which is taking place in smaller cities. I think the dichotomy that we are facing in this country, and we are also grappling with this issue in a big way, we have a lot of internal discussions, is that you have pockets which are completely saturated. You have a city like Pune which has, you know, lots of screens. People are spoiled for choice. Or you have Andheri Juhu which has got, you know, 40 odd screens. But then you have a lot of pockets in the country where you have no screens. We've not been able to penetrate for one reason or another. We need to deal with that issue. We need to figure out the cities where we have no multiplexes or good quality screens. We need to reach out and penetrate onto those cities. I think it will happen. It's a matter of time. India is clearly as...
But Kamal sir, sorry to say that though in the big cities the collections have improved, yes, that's because the ticket pricing is so high. But you talk about the footfalls have fallen. I had made a film called Raz in 2001. My Rajasthan distributor just a couple of days back said that at that time when there were no multiplexes, did a business of 1 crore 20 lakhs in 2001 when ticket rates were 15-20 rupees. And today, so many people had gone to see the footfalls were 50 times more than what it was today. So what I'm trying to say is that when I look at my security guy outside my office and I see the whole team of them, the watchmen and all that, they have got their mobile phones, they get that chip and they get it all, you know, the movies, pirated movies into that chip. 70% of your consumption goes there. 70%. Can you imagine the amount of money that is going waste? We should be able to, we should do something to tap that. If you can even tap a decimal of that, at 70%, 10% if you can manage to tap, you see the revenue where to where it goes. Last year in China, there were more than 20 films which did more than 1,000 crore business in China. Why? The China and India population is practically the same. Why? The Chinese films are doing a business more than 1,000 crores and we are getting very happy with 300 crores.
No,
that's something to ask.
While we clearly need more access points, which is the constant pain point of the industry, that we need more access points, be cinemas. I also would love to ask Vijay your opinion on the window for digital release, or is there a conversation that's happening on on how films are being released internationally? Is there an iTunes model? Are those conversations happening right now from your point of view? And is there a substantial growth, especially with Hotstar coming on board and in the last 45 days having 15 million viewers, which is amazing. So what is the perspective on the whole digital growth within India and for outside India?
Okay, just before that, I just want to add my comment to. I think 2014 has been a difficult year. There's no running away from that. We believe revenues actually have dropped 5%, I think the impact of it really has been seen where mid-level and small-level films have been completely wiped out. And I can tell you, sitting today, the number of films that are going to be greenlit in Bollywood is probably going to be half of what it was earlier on. Now, the reality is, and also sort of alluding to what it said just now, that the problem lies with us in the industry. I mean, I think, I believe the fact that 2014 wasn't good was the best thing that could have happened to us, because unless we feel the pain as an industry, we're not going to correct ourselves. So there are three things that I believe we must be doing. One is the fact that we keep talking about scripts, etc. But frankly, we haven't yet really made scripts the center of our content, number one. And the entire sort of development process, yes. Number two, I think this entire thing of budgets. I mean, we got to walk away from films if the film budget does not work. Because, I mean, I think it's only a 12-month window away when reality is going to come and bite us. So I think budgets have got to be made. Have to be made at the right level. And the third point, which comes to where you are, we've got to, as an industry, find ways and means to actually expand the revenue pool. And I think that's a really more difficult situation, and because I believe the first two are actually areas where we've made some progress and it is more under our control. I think when it comes to expanding the pie, I think it's going to be more difficult, because the reality is that as much as 55% of our revenue comes from theatrical, whether it's India plus international. 30% comes from satellite, which is under pressure, and I'll come back to that point. And the balance comes from music, and a very, very small, less than 5% comes from digital. And when you look at the Hollywood model sector, you see that it is those ancillaries which contribute to a very significant extent. So I think there is a real issue. I think, I do not believe that we should fool ourselves that digital revenues are going to grow in the short term, because it's a function of whether the digital players are actually going to adopt advertising funded models or subscription models, etc. So there's a fair amount of investment that will need to go behind that space. But I think that's an area that needs to grow for the future health of this industry. Last point which I just want to make, which is, I actually have a formula for, because rightly so everyone believes actors are taking too much. I actually believe we should have a formula which says that big actors will get a fee which is equivalent to their Friday opening number. Because all they do is actually make the opening number.
Guneet, I just want to add a point about windowing. It's also a question of the overall ecosystem evolving and developing. So if you look in the West, I mean, we obviously have various levels of theatre, so there's windowing even in theatrical. On the television side today, we are the equivalent of basic cable, as Jyoti said, but as digitization in phase 1 and phase 2 evolves, today we've launched several new channels. Niche channels will come into play, and if the new pricing structure in the television industry takes hold, Star has introduced RIO pricing, etc., where consumers are paying by the channel rather than one flat fee. You will then be able to window, first the premium channels where the people who are paying get first look, then you go another window down, and then you go another window down. So it's also not completely divorced from the evolution of the television industry overall, as far as windowing in television goes.
Also, just Anil, I really wanted to ask you this question on why, as being an independent distributor, and your viewpoint being the largest independent distributor within India, you get to see films early on. Is there, what has changed from, in a decision-making space, given the last few years where there have been breakouts of content-driven films? I know how both of you together worked on Ashiki 2 and the numbers of that. So is there a certain decision-making that you do at your level for a content-driven film? during analyzing it and release strategies and how do you come to, I mean these are 3 questions put together, and how do you actually decide which window to release? Are there some patterns? Is there some light you can throw on this?
You know what I'd like to say is that even though 2014 has been a bad year, contrary to that, it's been the best year for me. I mean, that just goes to show that if you do things correctly, I think even a bad year could be a good year. And why it's been bad for the industry, I think we have only ourselves to blame. Like I said, in 2014, I think I picked up most of the films which had newcomers, new talent, and content. And out of that, Mukesh ji, I think, has been very supportive to the industry where good content has been concerned, and I'm glad I've been associated with his company. It just goes to show that content is prime. I mean, whatever you spend, I mean, I don't think Mukesh ji in the past so many years has made a film which has been really, really expensive, but his success ratio yet has been enormous. So I just feel that it's on what you do and what you make. And like Vijay said, it is a good wake-up call for all of us. And we need to learn from this, that spending money does not mean more returns. It's how you make of it and how you rationalize things and do it in a proper budget. That's what gets you your returns. So the bottom line is the ROI should be the maximum.
Yeah, that's the main thing. ROI is the only guru mantra. The media has taken this thing of the 100 crore club, which is the biggest, I think, some bullshit that's happening. 100 crore club is complete.
The cost is only 100 crores.
Yeah.
We're generating 100 crores.
Yes,
So
it's too much of money riding at too little a profit.
Even with the 100 crores we are bleeding.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So it's ROI, and I always tell my friends that you can never plan a hit, but yes, you can definitely minimize your losses. So work on that.
I mean, we all stand to learn from, especially the Vishesh film model, where over and over again you've constantly had new actors, edgier stories, tapped into genres, and put it out there at a very exciting marketing cost. And we all stand to learn from a constant, safe model that Vishesh film has developed. And as we have an influence.
As this is the World Cup season going on, can I interrupt and say one thing?
Please,
when you're talking about the Vishesh Films model, like I would say it in the language of cricket, because now the World Cup is on. I said, okay, even if we lose the match, we win in the run rate.
Awesome. That is going back to the FICCI conversation. And especially just one more thing is been on my head on while we greenlight a film, what are the revenue streams that we look at? I mean, if one of you would like to answer as a studio, the process of greenlighting, what are the revenue points that we have? And coming to a conversation of satellite, which I really want to address on this panel, and especially with Ajit very closely associated with Colors and Vijay very closely associated with Star. So just between the 3 top studios here and the process of greenlighting and where we stand on the satellite conversation today.
Okay. So greenlighting in the yesteryears used to be so much will come from theatrical. You benchmark it against the actor's previous successes and lows. So there's a range of what the actor does because it was all star driven. Also the director, if there is a big director associated with it. X would come from satellite, again, purely based on this Akshay Kumar's this film meant for so much, etc., etc. There would be a genre, so you know that certain films rate better on satellite, you know, which are more mass and would rate better, so they would fetch a better price. And then you would say music so much, and then the rest is and then you would say, okay, what is your risk to return pendulum, and you would greenlight films on that basis.
And international for you especially.
Absolutely. So the international revenues and the Indian theatrical and international, so that was our theatrical bucket. Over time, genres started becoming irrelevant. So a film takes 18 months to 2 years. You know, you would have greenlit something today. and it has to be relevant in 2 years' time. Take the South remakes, for example. There was a time when that was a cash cow. You know, we were milking cash cows. No thought was, no thought was going into those films. They were being mindlessly remade. And then some of us lost our shirt on a couple of films for that wake-up call to come that, South remakes are not working anymore. That doesn't mean they won't come back. In the future, in a redesigned new avatar, some thought has to go into it. So now we're thinking, now the thought is the other extreme. Okay, if you're greenlighting this film, assume satellite is 0. If it's a smaller budget film. So when we greenlit a Badlapur or a NH10, which, so they were adult certified films. So we were assuming we would make no money from satellite. And so today we are doing a Tanu Weds Manu 2 that's going to release. We're thinking franchises. Franchises more not the way that we think in India where, okay, a film is successful, so let's make a part 2. But more thinking about right from conception stage, does it have the germs to be a 3-part series? Are the characters being thought through for a proper franchise? And we know Hollywood has milked franchises so very well. So the thinking has changed, and then over to the satellite boys to talk about the TV part.
Just to sort of add to the greenlighting process, I think traditionally all of us are guilty of the fact that in the past somebody came and gave you a 15-minute outline and he threw a few names of actors and stuff like that, and you nodded and said, yeah, that's a great idea, let's go ahead and do it in the budget, and that's it now hoga and all that. I think that all has changed. Just to give you an idea, at least what we're doing at our end is that, for example, our release slate for the next 15 months is frozen. So our creative teams are working actually on developing scripts which will be filmed, and not every script will be converted into a film, but it is those scripts that will then release 15 or get into production in the next 6 to 12 months. I think on the satellite, I think the satellite boys have been made to come out as the bad guys. I think the truth of the matter is that, okay, when you look at the top 20 films, I think the top 20 films, roughly about a third of the value comes from satellite. Now, the problem is not with the 30%. I think the problem is that we bloated our budgets, and 30% of a bloated budget is an unreasonable number. And we got used to that in making films. And I think what's happening today is that we need to correct our budgets. I don't believe they'll have a problem on giving you the 30%, because their reality is 30% of a bloated budget does not translate into advertising revenue to cover their what they paid. So I think the problem lies very close to us, and I think those guys are actually, if anything, our anchor tenants that we should respect a little more than perhaps we do.
The correction has come only because of them losing money. So, yeah, so I mean, the problem that is with us, we need to correct that. It's very important, but yet I don't think a lot of us have learned. I mean, if you see the number of films that are also being green-lighted, I mean, there's such heavy budgets. I mean, how does one actually recover all that? And then with today's scenario, it's not possible.
You're absolutely right. I don't think these films are going to recover. I think films will recover through creative accounting, which isn't really, justifiable. Alternatively, they'll have to make sensible, we'll all have to make sensible films, and the number of films that will be produced in this country are going to be half of what they were last year. And I think that is the best wake-up call in this industry.
Quite honestly, quality of films is more important than quantity. I mean, we want both. We want good quality films, and a lot of them we want must-see mass market films like PK, but we also want Badlapur and NH10 and those sort of discerning audience films. I think the problem with the screen in India is a little different. The growth is definitely slow. While China is reached 24,000 screens, we are still at, I'm talking about multiplex screens, we are still at less than 2,000 screens. US is already at 40,000 screens, so we've got a lot of headroom. But the problem is that our strategy is dependent on malls. Clearly the time has come to change the strategy and look at retrofits, which is to take over a standing single screen and see if you can convert, which is what we've done initially. The initial phase of multiplexing in the country was converting the existing single screens into 2 screens, 3 screens. So that's where we are heading. That's where the screens will come from. Clearly this small strategy would take us very far. Just going back to what Bhatt sir was talking about in terms of ticket price. When you're right, I mean, I don't disagree with you. The cities ke andar ticket price is, it is what it is. I mean, it's a question of choice and the services that we offer to people. But it's also a fact that our average ticket price is only 170 rupees. When I say average ticket price, across all the multiplexes that we have. And within that 170, so firstly 170 is not a very high number. In India, if you're talking about 170, is about $3. If you compare it to China, the average ticket price of the entire country, I'm talking only PVR as a chain compared to China as the whole country, is $4.50, which means the top class chains, it's a mass market. It's like us, not very different. But I'm saying
it's not only the ticket rates, it's the concessions, the average. I mean, it's an outing for a family. And for a driver or a staff to go and see, it's completely impossible. So as a result, they're only watching on pirated DVDs, I mean, which you get for a $50 or a $60, and they're watching it at home. So we need to attract that audience in, to get the footfalls.
But the fact
it's very important.
It's a question of choice. I mean, every product will have is going to discover its own, he'll have his own catchment, he'll discover his own audiences. We feel the marketplace of multiplexes is extremely competitive. While you have weekend evening shows priced as high as 300, 350, 400 in some cases, you also have weekday shows priced as low as 50 rupees. So it's a very wide canvas that we are dealing in, because ultimately we want more bumps on the street, right? We want more.
Absolutely.
So I mean, we are catering to, we've got these super savers Tuesdays, we were selling all shows, including evening night shows at 7 rupees. So I mean, we are all for more footfalls. We have a lot of idle capacity, and if ticket price can get it, absolutely perfect.
Mukesh said, shouldn't there be differential ticket rates for different films as even in the same week?
Yes.
There should be, I mean, logically, for a newcomer film to have a ticket rate which is of an established star, I mean, it is a hindrance for the audiences to actually enter and see. Yeah.
The smaller,
but the difference is not too much. It's very marginal.
That the difference of 30% to 20% is less, it should be more. But like I said, I mean,
because the footfalls come in, that's where the difference will.
Also for smaller films specifically, I mean, which are not weekend bumper bonanzas, which actually grow from a Monday onward.
It's the genesis of it. We are part of what the value chain is today. So what will happen, fast forward 10 years, 15 years, today the windows are short. Hollywood makes the sum of the parts of Hollywood is far greater than the sum of the parts that we are able to do. Television, for example. Our films stay in theaters for 2 weeks and then they peter off because there aren't just enough theaters. So the next film is waiting in its annual. In television, Hollywood does pay-per-view, then it does pay television, premium television, pay television, basic cable. Today what we're doing, what we know as television in India is basically basic cable where you see a Saturday night premiere with hundreds of ads. And so I think the business will evolve and there will be growth. Today our P&A costs are very, very low. But you're asking me a question whether the P&A costs are high. But in the scheme of things, $3 million, $4 million is tiny as a percentage of the budget. If you're doing a 100 crore movie and you're spending 18 crores on P&A, that's not very high. But a time will come when a 100 crore movie you can spend 50 crores on P&A if there is distribution, and you should be able to make 800 crores out of that movie. And that will be real growth. So I think we haven't even scratched the tip of the iceberg. But as they say, the glass is half full, half empty. I see this as a huge opportunity, and we got to wait it out. People with the bigger balance sheets, people with a stronger risk appetite will survive and end up being game changers.
Saying, I think for the smaller pictures, the problem with P&A is that whether you have a 100 crore production budget film or a 50 crore production budget, you end up, the swing between P&A is not a lot of money. I mean, you're still spending 10 to 12 crore.
What you said, Jyoti, was very good that you give the example of Bajirao. Now what you do with Bajirao Mastani, what you do with Ram Leela, with comparatively younger stars making a film of that budget and sticking your neck out, risk. In our business, if you don't have the temperament to take risk, then please go and open some other shop. Yeah? What happens is that I come from the socialist India, started my journey 45 years back. We come where finance was not available. We have mortgaged our houses to make movies. Hundis paying 36% interest and survived. And survived not because God was kind on us, but because we were obsessed, mad people with a lot of fire in our hearts, fire in our belly, passion to make something which we believed in. What has happened now, that is discipline. Now, films are not being made, you are doing trading. Take A, take B, take C. This much will be the coverage, this much you get from satellite, this much you get from this and all that. You're trading, you're not making movies. And we're making photo sets. Photo sets don't run, films run. We stop making movies, we're making photo sets. Who's going to be the star, who's going to be this packaging? Inside there's nothing. Whenever a person has gone passionately and made a film which he believed in, where he could put his thumb impression on, he could sign with blood on it, the film has never let him down. My only request to the corporate world which has come into this business, because I am a single producer, I'm only 67 films young and still ticking, is telling the corporate world that you have come with a lot of good to the fraternity, the industry, but back passion, back filmmakers, not projects. That's where we are making the money. If you want to play safe, then go somewhere else, don't be here. Because this is not the place. The more risk you take, the more chances of you succeeding. Whenever I did something which the market told me not to do, I succeeded. And when I did something which the market told me to do, I failed. So you need to stick your neck out and go by your belief, your gut belief. And I'm not saying go crazy. Our job is to manufacture glamour and not to become a victim of it. But within that parameters of the real budget, which unfortunately not many people know what the real budget should be. Like my father, being a layman, being a filmmaker, he made only 128 movies. It's a genetic problem we have in the family. He said a very nice thing. He said, son, you're going to become being a filmmaker. I was 21 years old then. He said, you do one thing, whenever you make a movie, remember one thing in mind. I said, what, Dad? He said, whatever you spend, it should be within the frame of the film. Anything which you spend should be seen inside that frame. What you spend outside is nothing but crime. It's wastage. I felt that was the most beautiful gift to me. Today we are spending more on the outside than the inside. We cater to the tantrums of the star, the tantrums of the director. We are doing nothing but fulfilling their egos. A very beautiful line Roger Moore told me when I was in New York a couple of years back. He said, Mr. Bhatt, we stars are there and you producers are there. You producers make a huge hoarding of us 60 feet tall. And when we are driving down the street and we see our hoarding of 60 feet tall, and we feel very flattered. And we start believing that we are 60 feet tall. I can understand us going mad. What happens to y'all? Y'all paid for that hoarding. Why you go mad? You suddenly start feeling that you're 60 feet tall, we are only 6 feet. So this is what happens, you pandering and catering to the star tantrums, and you only land up bleeding. It's not the film, and most of the time, see, the ratio is very clear, 1:10. You know, you will not get. But the amount of films failing while increasing by the day, by the hour, is because we are not working in the so-called real budgets. A lot of times the films are okay. There was a time when there used to be a plus B film, there was an average B, not A class. But they used to recover and be commission earners because they were made in a particular budget, which was real budget. Now is everything gone up, it's got bloated out of proportion. And that's where you find the losses more and the profits minuscule. So we need to check, do a real check in that. How we are not going to pander to star system. We have got the biggest stars today, you're talking about the Khans. They're all 50-year-olds singing romantic songs. Huh? Yeah? So what I'm saying is we have to bring young stars. We need to create young talent. We need to promote them. I'm not saying only to the production. I'm talking to my friend here from the multiplex. I said you have to have ticket windows for films which are made with newcomers, with new directors, new filmmakers, a different ticket window. Because you have to create future wealth. We are not creating future wealth. We need to, while we have our stars, very good, they are there to give us the 300 crores and 400 crores, whatever we call that. But we need to have the second line. Fasal nahi, fasal aani chahiye bhai. How is it going to happen? You have to do it. So we have to collectively, see what production sits in isolation, distribution sits in its own corner, exhibition is own. We need to coexist. The problem of the producer has to be shared by the exhibitor. The problem of the exhibitor has to be shared by the distributor. We all are part. The satellite, the broadcasters are living in their own cocoon. The production is in their own cocoon, exhibition in their own cocoon. And everybody is very insular in the way of looking. You have to understand that in your problem is my problem, and my problem is your problem. We are not functioning that way. And that is why every opportunity I get to scream my lungs out, I scream my lungs out saying that let's come on the same page. Only when you come on the same page, open our hearts and talk our hearts out, there will be a solution to that. And this is the most, people say that this is an industry which has got a lot of risk. I say bullshit. No, this is a fabulous industry. It's got minimal risk provided you work in the real budgets. Unfortunately, we don't follow that, and then we have the tendency of blaming the other person. Actually, I was right, but the other person was wrong. So we need to do the introspection in that and say that the fault lies with each one of us. I would say that it starts from me. I'm a part of it to have spoiled the system. The ecosystem has been spoiled by even me. So we need to correct ourselves. In accepting that is the first step towards correction, and nothing is impossible. We can do it. This is the beginning. You should start from this session. We should start a new beginning. This is a beautiful industry. We can take it to another level. We have to fight the government together. We have got hardly 8,000 screens. China is opening a screen every third day.
Is very interesting, and I'd like to thank our friends at ENY for putting this together and for FICCI for this event. And as he's already talked about the potential of the power of tourism and what we hope to unleash, I hope over the next few minutes you can see what the power of this could be. For that, we have a very power-packed panel this afternoon. But before that, I'd like to welcome Michael Ellis to speak about unleashing the power of film tourism. Mike is the boss of Asia, and he has enormous experience in this, and I think I know him for the longest time, almost 13, 14 years. He's come back to India after 3 years, and he's going to tell us about unleashing the power of film tourism.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here, and for FICCI for allowing us to do this event, and Uday, and for all that you do for the industry, not just the Hollywood industry, but also the local industry as well. We are all better served by having Uday at the table working with us. We heard this morning from the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting how important the industry was. We certainly want to be part of that, looking at ways as how we can improve the overall situation so that the filmmakers can actually make films here in a more efficient, effective, and hopefully financially secure way. So the topic is unleashing the power of the film and tourism industry. It's very clear that the box office in Asia...
Last time you said 20 countries so far?
I've shot in over 34 countries.
Absolutely. And you totally understand the frustration. You totally understand the frustrations of shooting in a city like Mumbai or in this country, and the problems that you face while shooting it, and the need for film commissions, and what you think would be beneficial if you had a single window. How would you react differently if you had easy shooting ability, ease of doing business as we were talking about nowadays? Would you think that having a film commission here as a nodal entity and you just go there, get a film shoot, will make you relocate and make films in India as well?
See, what is important for me to say is that while as a filmmaker from India, I've been traveling to various parts of the world, and the world has opened its arms to Bollywood, which is very heartening, because the world has recognized the power of Indian movies, because every fifth person walking on this planet is an Indian. And there's a very famous saying that wherever Bollywood goes, tourists follow. You're talking about a population of more than 200 million middle class audience, Indian. Forgetting the Pakistani, the Sri Lankan, the Bangladeshis, if you add them, it's a phenomenal number. They all decide where to go for their next vacation. And mind you, the Indian middle class is flush with funds. They decide their holidays from the movies they see. And we might not have the budgets compared to Hollywood, but in terms of tourism, I can tell you one thing: we are miles ahead of what Hollywood can do in terms of tourism, what we can do, because we have the sheer numbers, the magical numbers. I'll give you a very small incident where a couple of years back, I'd gone for the Lucano Film Festival, and I was having lunch with the Honorable President Joseph Dias of Switzerland. While having lunch, he said a very interesting thing. He said, "Mr. Bhatt, I've got a problem with you, Bollywood producer." And my hand froze. I said, "My God, what's the problem?" And he said, they started laughing. He said, "No, you can continue eating, nothing serious." But I said, "No, please tell me what's the problem." And he told me a very interesting thing. He said that it's a couple of years back. It was in a city of Interlaken in the summer. There were more than 500,000 Indian tourists there. And they had come there, and there was no accommodation. They didn't have the hotels for so many Indians in that place. And they were saying, why are they all here? Why are they not going to other parts of Switzerland? And to their horror, they discovered that my dear friend Mr. Yash Chopra, he had made one popular film of his, and that was shot in Interlaken. And that's how the Indians who saw that popular film, seeing the popular actors, decided to go there. So he said, "I've got an offer. Please call a good team of producers of your guild at our cost. We will sponsor them to go and shoot at other places, like St. Moritz. They're all beautiful. So that next year we don't have this problem. That the tourists can go to the rest of the country too." So this is the part. What I mean to say is that even a decibel of the population of the country decide to go to your country after seeing the popular actors, you can have an avalanche. So what I want to say that though the world is open to us, which gives me tremendous joy as a filmmaker because we like to capture, we have dream merchants, we sell dreams, and especially our movies, our kind of movies, has got a lot of romance, a lot of music to it. So we take them to a world which, especially to the poor man on the streets of our country, who can never in his real life actually go and visit those countries. We make him visit those countries, visit those beautiful locations with their favorite actors, singing those lovely romantic songs. So we just transcend them into a world which is full of joy and fantasy. And that's what we our speciality is, our kind of movies is. While we offer that to them, unfortunately here, we don't have that support system from our government. Our government is just waking up that we need to have a single window. But I say better late than never. For example, today in our panel, there was supposed to be a minister from the state of Maharashtra where we are sitting now, to be here in this panel discussion. And I was looking forward to that because I had very serious questions to ask. But unfortunately for me, and fortunately for her, that she was not here because then she was in for a very serious debate with me. Having said that, India, it doesn't give me joy, but that time comes when you have to do some plain talking. You have all the agencies here which is corrupt, which is full of manipulations, red tape. Me, I especially don't work with stars. And because I don't work with stars, it works out better for me to shoot abroad than to shoot in my own country. And the reason is because I don't want to go through the agony of dealing with the government agencies, whether it's the police, whether it's the traffic police, whether it's the municipal corporation people. They are corrupt. And that, I don't take pride in it, I feel ashamed about it. Well, my foreign colleagues are here with me, respected people are there, how beautiful they make the whole process of filming in their respective countries. It is that difficult and ugly. But being the president of the guild, being a filmmaker who's only 68 films young, I would say not old, I will not give up. I will see to it, there is a ray of hope that this present government intends to change the way things are moving. So I will be optimistic and hope that things are, we need a commission, a film commission, which should not be in the hand of the government, because again, if you give it to the hands of the government, there will be again a complete mess. They will not understand the film culture, the film language. So if in case there is a film commission, it has to be something which is going to be a partnership between the guild and the government, so that we can facilitate. There's so many people who come to me and they say, Bhatt, we're having this problem, we want to shoot it. Because India is a beautiful country. It has got the deserts, it's got the mountains, it's got the snow-capped mountains, it's got the forest, it's got the coastal line, it's got everything. But the tragedy is that we don't have the system in the right way for filmmakers. It's a delight for a filmmaker to come and shoot here, because there's so much of diversity in terms of the landscape. It has so much to offer. It's a mystical land. It's a land full of magical locations. But what we need is the infrastructure, which unfortunately we don't have. But as I say, I'm an optimist, and I would want that structure to be laid where we can facilitate our friends, filmmakers from all over the world to come. The way I go, I would love that day to come soon, where I can welcome them and capture the beauty of our country. Thank you.
Campaign, it works very well, but there's more to India than tigers, and God knows we haven't got enough of those tigers. So India needs to be promoting itself across the board as the modern country it is, and you can do that. You can do that through cinema. And one final note on New Zealand: there's only 4 million of them. There's only 4 million of them. And you get a confidence when you have a country that's at peace with itself and is promoting
the process. And I hope that however steep the climb might be, I'm going to push the river and make things happen, because that's what I feel committed. That to myself, to my fraternity, to my contemporaries all over the world, filmmakers all over the world, the opportunity for them to come and have the pleasure, the same pleasure which I have when I travel to their countries, to come and film their beautiful films here. It's going to be a tough thing, because we have to create a film commission in every state, because what the state of Rajasthan has to offer is completely diverse from what Kashmir would have to offer, or for that matter the state of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. They're all different, right? It's radically different. If you go from east to west or from north to south of India, you'll find that there are so many countries in one country. And what saddens me is that when I see such brilliance in my own country, I, as a filmmaker from here, cannot capture it. Forget the filmmaker from the outside world to come to capture it. It pains me. My heart bleeds. Because we, as I told you always, that we filmmakers are, passion driven. We are distributed of human emotions. And we have started the process. Now, it's going to be tough, but then we are going to see to it that it's going to happen. And I would say next year, this time when we meet, I'll be talking a much more positive roadmap compared to what I'm talking today. Today I might sound a little pessimistic. But next year, I can assure you, because I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to make things happen. Push the river.
Colin, now when Mr. Mukesh Bhatt goes out and shoots in foreign locales, he gets the best of the shots of those locales, presents them so beautifully and so romantically in his films, and that's why he probably goes there. But we have seen that whenever, we've seen quite a number of films being made by UK filmmakers and US filmmakers. When they come to India, they don't shoot best of India. They shoot worst of India. They shoot slum dogs. They shoot slums. Now, how would be able to promote film tourism if that is what foreign filmmaker,
I've got what you said. See, this is why. Why this is happening? Because our government has got complete apathy towards our industry, has not given importance to tourism the way the world has opened up. We are still in some slumberland. We need to wake up. How do you expect the world to come and capture the beauty when you don't showcase it? The world showcases it. I've gone to those 34 countries and shot in those 34 countries. Before I went there, I got a peek into the beautiful locations. What are we doing? First we have to ask the question to our government. We are doing nothing. For people to come and capture. No, you're saying about the power. You're talking about the
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something else.
No. You can make films which are.
I'm complimenting you that even if you go to Brazil, I'm sure Mr. Mukesh Bhatt is not going to shoot Brazil favelas. He will be shooting the best part of Brazil. That is his tendency. Indian films always show every location beautifully. Even in India, suppose you shoot, you pick up beautiful locations. That's your kind of film. But the kind of films foreign units are making, they're not those kind of films. They're not romantic films all the time. Except one example of, the great exotic Marigold Hotel or something like that. But generally, there are slumdog millionaire kind of films are getting made. Recently,
that's a subject.
Recently, there was a film made about Daughters of India, which is totally a derogatory film.
That's a demand of the subject. Hello?
No, forget about the demand of the subject. Your demand of the subject is beautiful, their demand of the subject is ugly.
No.
India is always presented in a very ugly way. We have so many beautiful things happening in India too. Who comes and shoots that?
Uday ji, you have taken all the questions from Lok Sabha, you haven't taken a single question from...
I'd like to just say something. This has been a very interesting session here. We've had some very interesting thoughts, and it reminded me of my trip to England when my kids made me go all the way to Annick Castle because Harry Potter, you know, so we drove 500 kilometers one way and 500 kilometers back to go and see Harry Potter, right? Annick Castle.
Uday ji,
So this was really interesting, and
from this side. You didn't take even a single question from this side.
You didn't check in the next
You
session,
had all the
please.
questions.
We can talk offline.
Okay.
So, on behalf of the LA India Film Council, we would like to present a token of appreciation.